Do it.
Do it.
Welcome to the Austin Otaku Podcast, hosted by Jesse McDonald and Keith Good.
Welcome back to the Austin Otaku Podcast, everyone. My name is Jesse McDonald. I'll be one of your co-hosts today. And today I am continued to be joined by the lovely, I enjoy saying lovely, Keith Good. Keith, how are you?
Oh, thank you. I'm so lovely.
I think you're lovely.
Oh, thanks. You know what? Listen, if everybody thought that way, I wouldn't be single. Anyway, totally joking. There's no sympathy here. How you doing?
I'm good, man. How's your week been? I feel like I haven't seen you much this week.
You know what? Busy. Yeah, busy. It's been one of those weeks where we, got a lot going on. I realized that there was some work left behind that I'm now having to pick up and correct some issues, which is always a lot of fun. So I really look forward to these Friday afternoon chats with you and our guests, because it gives me an opportunity to de-stress for a minute.
Me too, man. Yeah, this has definitely been a stressful week. A lot of attention on our department, which is good, but man, we've been busy.
Busy. Yeah, a lot of fun. So yeah, we're looking at a big format change this week. Actually, just to be fair. To be fair, we are probably going to continue to evolve how we do this show. I would say until the end of the show.
Probably. As SEOs, we're just going to keep testing.
We're going to keep testing, seeing what works, and trying different formats. So in addition to what we added last week, which was the lightning round, we are going to add a Tell Me Something Good segment. Tell me something good. Where all of us are going to give one recommendation of something we really think everybody would benefit from having in their lives. It could be a movie, a band, an anime series, a comic book series, whatever it takes. So yeah, we're going to add a little bit to that, and then we'll see how that response goes. And maybe we'll add something next week. Maybe we'll take something out. Maybe we'll just go to complete silence next week.
We'll record an hour of complete silence and force people into it. I like it. I'm super into it.
Yes.
Well, today we have an incredible guest who is also a big proponent of testing. This week on the Austin Otaku Podcast, our guest will be Navah Hopkins. She's the director of paid media at Hennessey Digital, an integrated digital marketing agency run by Mr. I Love SEO himself, Jason Hennessey. A veteran of both SEO and PPC as far back as 2008, she now manages the strategy and execution of paid media, leading a team of paid search and paid social champions. Most of you will recognize her and her appearances on the international speaking circuit and her contributions to blogs or webinars for SEJ, SEMrush, and Wordstream. When she's not working, it turns out she is also an otaku like us. One of us. She enjoys gaming with her husband and hangs out with her pets, HK-47, Freya, Chinook, and Aru. Much to Keith's pleasure, she is also a Sith sympathizer. That's hard to say. Yes. But she is also into awesome things like Magic the Gathering, anime, manga, Ren Faires, and, of course, metal. Welcome to the show, Navah Hopkins.
Yay!
Thank you for having me. One thing that's actually really funny, Chinook and Arhu, they inherited their names, whereas HK and Freya were chosen. So it's just, we have like the perfect set, a boy and girl dog, a boy and girl cat. It's all good stuff.
That's awesome. I'm also very glad that I said them at least semi-correctly.
It's all good. So, one of the other reasons why Chinook got to keep his name is that beyond, because he was originally paired with our unfortunately passed away, Kiowa, who was originally named Mistral. But a Chinook is both a helicopter and a Native American tribe, and he perfectly embodies that copter or that chopper. It's this big person-carrying helicopter, where it's not actually meant to attack anything. It's just meant to be a big love boat, and that's exactly what he is. He's just this big love boat.
That's awesome.
I love my Chinook. I love my
That's
HK
awesome.
and my Freya and my Arhu, but that's neither here nor there.
Very nice. We've got into it a little bit with the description, the opening sort of introduction for you, but tell us a little bit about yourself, both professionally and personally.
Sure. So I love looking at game, or I love looking at game. I love looking at life like a game. So in both my professional and my personal life, I'm always looking at the mechanics of things and how can we make the rules of engagement serve us, or i.e. me. So in my day-to-day job, I manage accounts, I work with clients, I empower them to victory. But then I also look a lot internally, how can our agency operate more efficiently? How can we adapt to serve our clients better? That might mean cross partnerships with SEO teams. That might mean bringing on an interesting role that could help overall our clients succeed. And then in my personal life, it's really a partnership between my husband and I. So I'm the one that kind of takes care of the serious business, and he's the one that makes sure that all the Zen is in place. And so between the two of us, we're a highly functioning adult living our best life. But yeah, that's me. I like helping people. I also like winning, which is a really weird dichotomy. So it's proof that a Sith can be good.
Yeah, Sith can use their desires for good. I would agree with that.
So that's so funny that you mentioned that. I feel the same way about my wife, is that we both kind of, I guess you would say, balance each other. We both have our elements of serious that we bring to the table, but then we both have our elements of silly that we bring to the table. It's cool seeing other relationships do that as well.
I don't know. I might be a little bit biased, but I feel like, at least from my experience, the women tend to be more the serious business, having to kind of manage all mechanical tasks, and the men, at least, and this is very much a hetero biased observation, basically speaking from my own experiences. So I guess I won't say in general. I'll say from my experiences, I tend to be more on the serious multitasking, managing lots of different things. And then my husband is very good at balancing and seeking out joy, Zen, and creating Zen-like experiences. And so because I don't have to worry about thinking about the Zen, like where I normally I would have to treat Zen like a job. And I think that people that fall into that parameter, it just is difficult. I don't know.
That's interesting.
This is a weird line of thought. I don't know how we got here. I almost would like to redo
this. We work together cause opposites attract. Thank you, Paula Abdul.
Yep.
Speaking of Paula Abdul, you have two dogs, which we've talked about previously, HK47 and Freya, which have incredibly interesting names, and you mentioned that they were chosen. What motivated you to name your dog after a murderous assassin droid from the Old Republic in Star Wars and a Norse goddess?
So HK47 is by far one of my favorite Star Wars characters of all time. I love him to pieces. He is just so fascinating, because even beneath all of the efficiency and murder and assassin protocols, there is actually an empathetic heart. And what was really interesting about HK, we knew that his name was HK47 before he came to us. He just happened to really fit the mold very nicely. So he arrived the first month. It was a month of basically trying to off himself. He jumped off a balcony. He ate a whole bunch of pills. He turned on a gas stove. He impaled himself on a fence. People talk about baby-proofing a house. We thought we dog-proofed our house. Apparently not. But he is just the sweetest, most loving protector that you could ever imagine. And he very much is the protector of the two. And he is a boxer pit bull lab mix, so he has quite a bit of energy. But he also is just, he knows how to curl up, and he'll just sit by my feet and just endure in the uncomfortable wood desk just that he can be near me and hang out with me. So he's very much the HK-47, that loyalty to Revan, and how he was just so bound to serving a master worth serving. I see that parallel there. Not necessarily saying that I'm worth serving, quote unquote, but it just he very much falls into that camp. Freya, on the other hand, is we jokingly call her Freya Dawnbringer, because she brings the dawn. She's so sweet. She's so loving. She has this beautiful husky smile. And what I truly love about Freya, she cuts HK's nervousness. So where HK will be on edge, or he might not trust as easily, when Freya's around, she brings the love. And Freya was the Norse goddess of love. And she is just this amazing, amazing soul. And I genuinely have no idea who in their right mind ever gave her up, because both HK and Freya were rescue pups. We had them brought over from down south. I think HK came from Georgia. Freya came from Tennessee. They were in kill shelters, and they would have died. And I can't understand who in their right mind would have done that to these two, because they're just the most loving, amazing pups. And it's a true blessing to have them with us. And I'm very blessed in my yard that can house them. And neither of them have escaped lately. HK had a solid 8 months where he kept escaping.
I was about to say, I remember you saying that he tried to get out a bunch. You're lying.
Oh no, oh my God, that's actually how we met all of our neighbors. Is bringing HK back home. Whereas Freya, she's great.
Do you have any plans to get Freya a companion child named Balder for her to be overprotective of?
We might need to get a cat named Balder, because she truly loves our cats. She needs to be friends with everyone. We might need to actually nickname the groundhog that lives in our backyard Balder, because she is constantly hunting for him, not to kill him, but just to be friends with him. If you are not willing to cuddle or give her the attention, she'll cry at you. And if God forbid she's bored, we're just lying in bed about to go to sleep and she wants to play, we will get sassed like no one's business. But it's a husky sassing, so that means it's the cute howling and yeah. Meanwhile, HK's just lying there. Go to bed. He'll sometimes tap her on the head, stop it, you're misbehaving.
That's funny.
You're his comfortable meat bag.
Accurate.
Obviously, a couple of intersecting interests there. When you sent in your guest form, you listed a ton of interests outside of your career. And I think it was everything from Magic the Gathering to anime to Ren Faires to Star Wars. What would you say you spend most of your time in your spare time doing, watching or reading or even playing?
Definitely, it's a combination of reading and playing. I actively play the Star Wars MMO. I play the Witcher games quite often. In terms of Magic the Gathering, since COVID started, we used to actually have standing games where I'd play with my husband, his brother, his parents, some of his friends, who have in turn become my friends. But with social distancing, we actually have had to cut that back. So I sadly don't play as much Magic the Gathering or board games as I used to. If you'd asked me that 8-9 months ago, I would have actually said Magic the Gathering and board games, more time gets invested there. But due to COVID, a lot of it's just virtual. And then, of course, reading and rereading comics, books. But yeah, I think that's the one thing, and I don't know if you guys feel this as well, if you found that some of the interests have just been depreciated a little bit. I definitely miss getting together around the table for a 6-hour round of board games, or for just a set of Magic the Gathering, doing a tournament, or Double-Headed Dragon, or there's actually a rendition that we do with The Legend of the Third Kingdom. It's a fun little Chinese game where there's a monarch. Bangus is an offshoot of it, where it's a monarch, the minister, the rebels, and then the turncoat. And as you're playing Magic, one person is the monarch and you can't actually attack everyone. You have to play according to your role. So if you're a minister, you have to prove that you're on the monarch side plus save the monarch, as opposed to just free for all, let's just go beat up everybody. So I realized the question was, what do I spend most of my time doing? I kind of regret that I don't spend more time playing board games, Magic the Gathering, as much as I used to, but I definitely do spend a lot of time gaming in general. It's my catharsis.
See, it's interesting for me that you mention that you feel your, I guess, hobbies have maybe dwindled a little during COVID, because I feel the opposite. Granted, I had a child, which makes hobbies a little bit difficult. But when I do have free time, or if she's asleep, or whatever, my hobbies are actually amplified, because being an only child, I'm not a board game or online game kind of guy. Like, I live by the mentality of I can't wait to be around you all alone. Like, I'm just a left alone kind of person. Like, I like being around people, especially like my conference family. So like the industry people that we all enjoy. But more than likely, I just kind of want to be around people, but not necessarily interact, just be in the environment. But one caveat to that is something like Magic the Gathering. So it's kind of been around for me since early college, maybe even a little bit in high school, but mostly college. So something that's always been around. In one of my previous jobs, we actually played it a lot at work. So we would do like, drafts and stuff after work, and even play during lunch. And it became somewhat of a fun competition, but kind of had an unhealthy competition connected to it as well, where there was a lot of deck building going on, and people would buy stuff specifically for a deck to build and beat someone else. So I have a lot of stuff that I've built some kind of interesting decks out of. So I was wondering.
All right, fine. You can ask me first, but I was about to ask you, like, what's your favorite play style? Like, what's your favorite color?
Okay. So let me ask you, and then I'll answer. We'll back and forth this. What is your favorite deck you've ever built, and what's the one that you're playing with the most right now when you do get to play?
So my favorite deck I've built, it's a toss-up between my Withering Darkness and my Monster Mash deck. My Withering Darkness plays off of the function that I put -1/-1 counters on all of your creatures, turning them into black scarabs. And so I basically wipe the field while building my own forces. My Monster Mash deck is a combination of direct damage and graveyard stealing. You might notice that I'm an aggro player. I don't have the patience. I wish I did for a blue play style or a white play style. I love black. Black is my jam. There's actually, I take that back. There's one other deck I'm extremely proud of. It's my dragon deck. And I'm proud of it because it's the first deck I built that when I pull it out, people go, "Oh no." Like when I get the "oh no" response, that's when I'm like, yay, I did it. And so my red-green dragon deck is a combination of direct damage, and it's a dragon factory. Very proud of that one. I have a pirate deck that, like, it's okay. I used to play with Infect until I was told I wasn't allowed to. So I just stopped building Infect decks, even though I had an amazing puppy Infect deck where I got it to the mechanism that I'd have an unblockable 10 Infect and then you're dead. And that's why I was told I wasn't allowed to play Infect anymore, because you weren't playing anymore. What about you? What do you like to play?
So I'm kind of like you and tend to be more of an aggro player. I have some blue and white decks that are okay, but they're not my favorite. They were built in response to someone else. And I'm not really a competitive person. I tend to be pretty zen and not really give a damn. But this got really bad, so I started making response decks. It was like rap disses almost. But I tend to play black or red and then a little bit of green. My favorite deck that I've ever built is really stupid and a pure technicality. It's a Planeswalker deck. It's all built around Garruk. It literally has 5 Garruks in it, and it is only playable because they're all a technical different name. Mm-hmm. It's Garruk, different name. So it's ridiculous. If I can get enough mana out, it becomes amazing really fast. But it's totally a novelty and usually ends up being a debate if it's even remotely playable. That being said, I think I'm like you. in that I built a black deck that ended up becoming the bane of everyone's existence. It has one card in it called Necrotic Plague, which basically, once it comes out, you place it on another card. Once that card has ended its turn, whenever it is, that then moves to another card, and you can't go away. It's constantly just moving around and killing the board. So yeah, I'm with you there. I think we play very similarly.
I was forged in the fires of playing against my husband and his brothers. My husband has a deck. Dave has a deck. It's called the Pocket Infinity deck. That unless you're able to stop it in 3 turns, every card in the game of Magic will enter the playing field. It's stupid. It plays it plays everything. It's infinite combinations. It's just
That's
it's stupid.
funny. So I'm kind of the same. I'm built off of a group of people that used to buy the championship decks every year, and I'm not into that, so I just built shit off of what I got, and then it turned into what it did.
Cockatrice. Cockatrice is how you build great decks and save money. So Cockatrice is a great database. All the cards in the game of Magic. So the decks I mentioned, my Withering Darkness, my Monster Mash, my Pirate deck, my Dragon deck, I built those off of Cockatrice so I could play test them and then buy the exact cards I need. So rather than paying, say, $800 to eventually acquire the cards I need, I pay $30, and life is great.
That's funny. My life is built off of everything that I've gotten from drafts.
Yeah, but that's why you have a commander deck and I don't.
Yeah, fair.
You mentioned that you play the Star Wars MMO, so the Old Republic, which I never actually got into because I had spent 4 years playing Star Wars Galaxies. I don't know if you had a chance to play that. It was an MMORPG. And actually, one of my good friends, Grant McDaniel, was the product lead for that particular product itself, and that was that was a really good game. Did you have a chance to play Star Wars Galaxies?
So not Galaxies of Heroes, though, right?
No. This preceded that.
Nah, I only got to the Knights of the Old Republic ones. So General KOTOR console games, and then the MMO. So I now need to go look that up.
So I'm assuming you are Dark Side affiliated in the Old Republic.
I am, because it's better writing. So the Empire has better writing than the Republic, which is really unfortunate. There's only one play style in the Republic that has good writing, which is if you do a Dark Side Jedi Knight, it's passable. However, if you want to be light side, the Empire has better writing. You're better served being a light side Empire user than you are being a light side. There's the one play style that I don't recommend at all. Even though the actual character moves are okay, like just be a Sith Inquisitor. If you want that play style, is the Consular. Their story is just so bland. And there's no consequences for anything. So I made my dark side fallen Jedi a consular, and I deeply regretted it. So I just abandoned the character. But he did terrible things, and the council was like, "You're fine. You still get to be like, I think it's Balcentor or whatever the top Jedi thing is. Whereas the Jedi Knight, unless you're perfect, nah." You don't get to join the council. You're just our warrior. Go fix our problems. And it was the perfect embodiment of Jedi hypocrisy. Like, what? This makes no sense. Whereas Dark Side, like, you have the one place I think you would enjoy the most is the Agent, because there's so many different twists and turns of where the story can go, and you get to be basically James Bond for the Empire. But you can be any style of James Bond that you want. So you can be the super ethical, you can be a player, you can be a cultist, you can be anything. And it's just, I very much enjoyed those. And so we talked about HK47 earlier for my wedding, the cake toppers for our wedding. I was represented by HK47, and then my husband was represented by M14X, which is a companion character for the Republic Trooper. It's one of the only redeeming things about that class story is M14X.
I think we have a lot more to go into about the whole Star Wars galaxy. It seems, but I think we're getting close to the half-hour mark here, and I think we're probably on to our next segment for a short period of time, right, Jesse?
We are. With us being halfway, Keith and I have decided, why not shake things up a little bit and add more segments to this beautiful fire that we're building every week. So this week, a new segment that we're going to try out and see how it goes is what we're calling the Tell Me Something Good segment.
Tell me something good.
And in this, we will all give a recommendation for what fuels our otaku fire. So with that, Navah, if you want to kick us off, what is your recommendation this week?
I don't think anyone's going to be surprised to hear Witcher: The Wild Hunt come out of my mouth. But the reason why I landed on Witcher over, say, an anime or Star Wars, one, I was given a spoiler that there might be a Star Wars panel that should be saved for. So definitely Star Wars. Don't feel jaded. But Witcher actually came into my life at a really important moment where I needed to kind of re-steel myself. So Witcher came out about the same time as when I had failed a nonprofit startup. And I was pretty burnt out, and I just, like, life was the worst. And a combination of taking a job that was fairly efficient and easy for me, but then also this world where I could see different sorts of outcomes and fight monsters, both that were actual monsters and people that were just terrible. It was a really good cathartic journey for me. I also very much enjoyed the music, the gameplay. It's absolutely fantastic, but just the timing of Witcher and when it entered my life was really, I think that's why it takes the gold for me on something good to try.
I agree. It is a really good game. I've tried to play The Witcher 3 a couple of times, but it kind of messes with my my motion sickness, and then my PlayStation always tries to take off every time I play it. So it's always an attempt and never ends up sticking. Keith, what's your recommendation this week, bud?
You and I mentioned in one of our previous podcasts about there was an era of time around 2011, 2012, 2013 that had some really good anime that came out. And I was reminded because I heard a piece from a classical song that totally reminded me of this anime. It's called From the New World. Japanese for that is Shin Sekai Yori. I believe it is 2012, 2013 season, 25 episodes. I believe you can watch it on Crunchyroll. Crunchyroll, not a sponsor.
Still not a sponsor.
You guys will get there.
We'll get there. But yeah, Shin Sekai Yori. But the reason the song reminded me of the anime was that the song heavily plays into the anime itself. It's Antonin Dvorak's Symphony Number 9, and it's part of that had been turned into a religious song called Going Home, and they used that song as sort of as a signal in the village for the children to go home from school that day. And that was it's such a touching and moving anime series itself that song becomes sort of embedded in your subconscious, and you sort of feel that sort of nostalgia. The story itself is actually quite interesting. It occurs 1,000 years in the future. Humanity has mostly died off. The humans that remain have psychic / extrasensory / telekinetic powers. If a child fails to develop those powers, they mysteriously disappear. But here's the interesting thing: if a child sort of falls behind in school, fails at an assignment, starts sort of falling behind the rest of the class, they mysteriously disappear, but then the memories of the entire village are wiped of that person. So that person's, even their memory is gone. So there is a very interesting plot that then happens when the children discover these infinite libraries of memories, and they discover that their memories have been wiped of their best friends, for example. So...
Did you see Ergo Proxy?
Yes, I love Ergo Proxy.
It reminds me a bit of it. Maybe not the core plot, but just like the essence.
That's
Is it in the
a
same
great
vein?
anime.
It's a similar era too. They both came out around that same time.
I believe Ergo Proxy was 2006, 2007, but yeah, I mean
that's true. Yeah.
That was a good period of time.
Yeah, totally. That sounds great. I need to watch that. I might need to sign up for Crunchyroll if they would sponsor us.
Not a sponsor yet.
Not a sponsor yet. To check that out.
How about yourself? Yeah. What's your favorite recommendation of the week? We have to pick one and only one, unfortunately.
And that's what's making this difficult for me because I love recommending stuff. I wish that was my job, was to just recommend things to people. Lately, when I'm kind of around the house and need some background noise, I've been watching a YouTube channel that plays up to kind of one of those dream hobbies that I've always wanted to have because it's something that my family used to do. It used to be one of the professions of my family back in like the 1700s. But it's a blacksmithing show called Man at Arms Reforged on YouTube. And basically what it is, it's a group of blacksmiths out of, I think, Baltimore. I can't remember. It's the Stagma brothers. They're out of Baltimore, I believe. And they build weapons, usually bladed weapons, based off of nerdy general otaku style shows. So they build one time they built the scissor blade from Kill la Kill, but they did it in an interesting way where they made all of their steel out of actual scissor blades. So got that, turned it into a billet, and then drew it out into what ended up being the scissor blade. So a lot of stuff like that. Like this morning when I woke up to feed and change my daughter, I put on Man at Arms and watched them build a Warhammer from Warhammer. So it's pretty cool. It's something that I've had on, and it's funny. My daughter really enjoys when the TV is on because she gets to see things move a lot faster. So that's one that she also really enjoys having on, I guess, because of all like the kind of colors from a forge. So blacksmithing, something I've always wanted to get into, that also plays into my want to be a woodworker. So that would be my recommendation this week.
Nice recommendation.
You are a woodworker.
I don't get to.
If you work with wood.
It's funny. I got a house with a garage with the intent of woodworking and then haven't done it much since. I did it more in an apartment than I did when I moved into a home. It was a successful Tell Me Something Good. I think we'll have to stick with that, Keith.
I liked it. I enjoyed it. I think that was a good one. Absolutely. That's really good.
Can I give a recommendation to let us pick 3 things as opposed to 1, or no? We're only allowed 1.
Well, the only reason we limit it to 1 because there are 3 people, so
3 recommendations, fair.
Yeah, 3 recommendations.
Maybe that's an idea for a follow-up show, just an all recommendation show.
All recommendations, 24 hours. That'll be a nice editing job for me to do.
Right? Do it.
Tell me something good.
Do it.
Do it. Yeah. Hey, so are you just this? I guess we can get back into the questioning now, right? And then then we'll sort of wrap things up with the lightning round. So Ren Fair, are you sort of a cosplayer, or are you a general attendee with that? Do you just tend to show up, or do you like to dress up?
I generally attend in cosplay. So even if I wasn't the drama kid that I am, and lover of all things interesting, I married into a family that worked Ren Fairs, and that are a family of archers. And so I have no choice but to be, when I go to Ren Fair, in costume. That said, I dance between gypsy pirate persona and what's it called? Just swashbuckling pirate persona. I've not been able to lock in a really good just general peasant outfit. And I'm not skilled enough to pull in a character from another show, so to speak. I just create general period pieces. My hope was when I put my wedding outfit together that I could use that for Ren Fairs, and then I just stopped going to Ren Fairs.
So you
Well,
bring
nobody's
up-
going now.
Yeah.
You bring up a really interesting point. And for those who don't know you, because this is what Keith and I were kind of talking about, you mentioned your wedding outfit. Are you saying that you want to go to Ren Faires in a long white dress, or did you do something more fun?
No, so it was a steampunk wedding. So I found a $7 kind of cream-ish dress at Goodwill. Found a really beautiful brown and bronze with kind of cog-oriented design aesthetic corset. Really interesting gold and black Victorian style boots. A hat that was apparently too tall because it got knocked off my head during the dance that we choreographed to Skyrim's Dovahkiin, or the Dragonborn comes, like that opening, and when you first start playing Skyrim.
Futurama.
Yeah, exactly. That was actually there's a video of that dance on Facebook, and my brother did that, and I was both amused and embarrassed because equal parts. Yeah, no, I very much enjoy costumes. I enjoy playing with different outfits and masks and putting on different personalities through clothing. Like that's a fun activity. Going back to The Witcher, which was a beautiful recommendation, that's actually something that comes up in the game, where you meet this transgender elf who specifically wears different outfits and pretends to be different people just to play the game of interacting with folks and solicit different responses. So that's I've always enjoyed interesting outfits.
That's super interesting. Are you a get into the persona type person, or just kind of a dress up and go?
I'm bad at getting into personalities that aren't super serious or scary. Like, I have no problem being the evil witch of the West, or jumping out and doing like jump scares. But to do kind of a frivolous fairy, we were joking around before we started the recording, so I'll put it in here just for giggles. But like doing like the Fae kind of characters, I don't know what it is, but I struggle to get into characters. The same thing actually with D&D too. Like I struggle to be silly, irreverent characters. Like I always want to go evil or serious, and I don't have a good reason why. I don't know.
We were talking with Topher about that in our last episode about playstyles with tabletop games, and I'm the same way. You might get into character a little more than me, but it just makes me wildly uncomfortable to be someone that's not myself, and that might be an insecurity within me about myself. But I can't be a character. I don't like acting. I'm good at it, but I don't like it. But I've always had this plan, and I thought it'd be funny, almost like a Sheldon from Big Bang Theory going to Ren Faires, of I want to build a somewhat accurate Ronin costume. So have the hakama and a yukata on top, and the straw hat, and go to a Ren Fair as a Ronin with the eventual goals of building a samurai costume on top of it, but not necessarily acting the character until I get into the element of I really want to get my Japanese to a point where I can only speak to people in Japanese at the Ren Fair and just really own that. But that's interesting. Keith, are you a big cosplayer?
No, I have been to a number of cons though, and of course I always appreciate the work that goes into the cosplays. And I imagine, Navah, just based on what you tell me about the dynamic between you and your husband and how serious you are and how he sort of tries to find zen, I imagine you taking on the task of building a costume quite seriously and like really, really getting into the detail of it and sort of getting a point where you're not quite satisfied or never fully satisfied, but trying to get there. Is that accurate?
That's not only is that accurate, my husband is infinitely better at it than I am. So it's doubly frustrating and confounding. So the story I'll tell, he was the best man at his friend's wedding, and it was a Mass Effect themed wedding. So for those of you that don't know, Mass Effect is a space epic, Commander Shepard saving the galaxy from the Reapers, read space tentacle robots that harvest our DNA. sums up the entire game in 2 seconds.
Nailed it.
So he did a cosplay of Garrus Vakarian, who is a Turian, and he walked around in a mask that he made himself, this really good armor, the rifle that he made himself. He made the whole thing himself. Meanwhile, I'm walking around in a femshep outfit that's basically just the black dress, because I could not make the Tali outfit that I was trying to make so hard. Like, I spent hours and hours trying to make a custom fabric, and I couldn't get it done in time. I'm like, I'm not gonna wear something that's bad. I'm gonna femshep it. And so that's what I did. But I did do evil femshep with the cracks and all that, and going along with my evil serious.
That's awesome. I like that your default was femshep. That's really funny.
Well, that is canon for Mass Effect.
Oh yeah.
The canon story is femshep and Garrus, because the writers have taste.
So we're both big fans of heavy metal. You more so on the power metal and symphonic metal side of the house, whereas I kind of go into that deeper, weirder sort of side with like death metal and black metal. What drew you to some of your favorite bands and this general style of music?
I love stories, and the bands that I connect with not only have beautiful vocals, but also tell profound stories. So Iron Maiden is a good kind of foundational band that I think a lot of people will know, that is a good indicator of whether I'll like a band or not. Blind Guardian is an absolute favorite of mine. I love listening to Tolkien-esque stories sung by Hansi, who has the best, his voice is so good. It's so good. And they do really interesting styles of music. I also really like Tyr. Tyr is really good. Falconer is really good on kind of the Viking metal side. Ailstorm is a rousing bit of fun. I like to use them as my speaking songs. It's nice and energetic. But one thing that I've noticed about myself, Camelot and Lacuna Coil were probably the first really metal that people looked at me as other for, that I liked and I gravitated towards, and it had kind of more of the gothic feel to it. And I've found that as I've progressed, I've gravitated more towards, as much as I'm a very serious person most of the time, I gravitate more towards music that empowers victory and growth and happiness, rather than focusing on death and doom and gloom. And so I think the reason why Camelot has stuck with me is that even though some of their songs really do have that darkness to it, there's always a glimmer of hope. There's always something encouraging you to keep chasing strength. And that's, if the song doesn't make me feel like I can, using a Mass Effect idea, like embrace eternity and like go seize the day, like a battle beast, I'm not gonna respond well. And I actually will avoid music that's too slow, because it will make me profoundly sad. I don't know what your guys' tolerance is for slow music versus fast music, but I actually cannot listen to slow music.
I listen to everything. I legitimately listen to everything. But I mean, it depends on my mood. So
yep. Totally mood dependent. Faster
stuff, it really depends on if I'm in an aggressive place or if I just need to feel more pumped up. Because I mean, I'm like you, in that we have some overlap in our music that we like, especially with a band like Iron Maiden or Tyr, where they're very, especially Iron Maiden being more history focused, Tyr being more mythology focused. I find that wildly fascinating. I'm a big concept music fan. My favorite band, Coheed and Cambria, literally has a story woven through all of their albums minus one. So I'm into that as well. But then where we branch off, I go more towards like the Amon Amarth side of things, where it's incredibly heavy, but still has that element of telling the story of Vikings and Norse gods and things. But slow stuff, I'm okay with that too. My God, on the way home from a doctor's appointment the other day, I listened to God, I'm going to say this out loud. I listened to Neon Moon by Brooks and Dunn and was like, oh, this is a really poetic song. I never realized that. So I'm all over the place. Keith's all over the place too. He's a big Cradle of Filth fan, right?
Yeah, big Cradle of Filth fan, and at the same time, I'm a huge neoclassical guitar fan. Love me some Iron Maiden. I love a ton of J-rock, J-pop. Love classical music. Yeah, I mean it's pretty much everything. I don't know about polka. I haven't quite gotten into polka yet.
Polka metal's good.
Polka metal. Exactly.
And by the way, everyone, Keith is not a Cradle of Filth fan. That's an IT crowd joke. So that was more in there for our office friends that we constantly quote the IT crowd with.
You should listen to track 5, Cannon Fodder. It's actually quite beautiful. It's actually quite beautiful.
Do you guys do musicals? Are you into
together?
What's your stance on musicals?
We both auditioned for Fiddler on the Roof, and it didn't work out.
Yeah, tradition wasn't ours. So.
I bring this up because you know how Hamilton just came on Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot wrap my head around why it's so popular. Like it's
yet, but I plan to.
So difficult to understand anything coming out of their mouths, and this is going to be a wildly unpopular opinion, but it's like we could have had a beautiful story, like do a Les Mis style. Do Les Mis. It's perfect. Yeah. It's beautiful. It's profound. It's heart wrenching. You don't need to speak so fast that no one can understand you.
I get it, and I will say this. I think a lot of the hype is because it was hyped. And that's probably a very true statement. Anytime you hype something, it tends to get hyped and be hyped. And it's one of the reasons that when people tell me, Keith, you have to watch this, you have to, it's the best thing ever. I tend to resist because I want to make that decision on my own. I don't want to watch something and think it's great just because you said it was great. So I have yet to watch Hamilton. I kind of want this whole buzz to die down before I give it a shot, so I can really sort of judge it on the merits of what it presents to me, not what someone has told me they like about it.
I feel similarly. I want to watch it. I'm a big fan of Fiddler on the Roof, and I really want to watch the Beetlejuice musical that's been out for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
Nothing beats Wicked.
I loved Wicked. I thought Wicked was a fantastic show. I loved that a lot. It was here in Austin 6 or 7 years ago. It's really good. Hey, so I think in part of our conversations, this was actually what you submitted in your form. You brought up the concept or the topic, which I love to talk about personally, of subs versus dubs in anime. And I think a lot of people, including myself, have particularly strong opinions about subs versus dubs. And what I'm referring to is whether the show is the audio for the show is in the original Japanese with English subtitles, or if they use sort of English voice actors to dub over. So subs versus dub is this sort of constant debate in the anime community. So what are your thoughts? What do you think it has to do with in terms of quality of voice actors? What do you prefer?
I prefer subs, but I need to watch in dubs if I want to watch with Dave or my husband. So I find myself, because I used to look down on dubs aggressively because the translation and the voiceover was never right. Like it just, if I'm watching Rurouni Kenshin in Japanese with subs versus the American dubs, Sanosuke's voice is so beautiful and rich and wonderful with the subs, and it's okay in dubs, but it's not perfect. But this was actually a growing moment for me, is that I was able to put aside my prejudice on subs or prejudice on dubs and partake in them, because the ability to watch it with someone who otherwise wouldn't consume the content with me was great. And so where I used to be just subs or nothing at all, I've grown to be a subs dubs hybrid.
I live in a hybrid model myself.
I get it. I'm actually of the same ilk as you. I 100% prefer whatever the original language was. of the anime. So even if, even if Korea starts producing a ton of anime, I want to hear that in Korean. I don't want to hear it in English. And a lot of the reason for that, I think, has to do with the fact that it's not seiyuu. Is it seiyuu that is the Japanese word for voice actor? I believe it is. So seiyuu are voice actors, and in Japan, this is a discipline that someone says, I'm going to become a seiyuu. They become an apprentice. They learn how to sort of engage in this skill. They improve their skill, and it's a very serious career choice for them. And I feel like a lot of American voice actors in particular kind of fall into it. They answer an ad in the paper, and suddenly they're a voice actor. And so they don't get that proper training that a lot of the seiyuu in Japan get. So I think you run into qualities of stuff not matching up that you would, that you see in the dubs, where it's like, oh, that didn't feel right. That emotion didn't work there. And I think there are a lot of emotions that don't really translate as well. I think there are some ways of emoting that the Japanese have that Americans just don't do. We don't do it in English. So, for example, in Japanese, if someone asks you how you're doing, you can legitimately go, mm. You can just go, mm. And that's your response, and that's perfectly fine. Or if somebody asks you, you doing okay? You can go, hmm. And that's perfectly acceptable, but that's not something we do here in the States. So I think a lot of it has to do with that as well.
See, for me, I'm a sub person if I can. It's a little hard to do when you have a baby because paying attention, really tough. But if I can, I'll watch it. Sometimes I do like dubs, but I do it for background noise unless their pronunciation's really bad. So I was trying to watch the dub of Attack on Titan not too long ago, and Aaron literally calls her Mikasa. I was done. That turned off immediately. But then and this might be a snobby thing that's coming out of me working on learning Japanese, but I went back and watched Dragon Ball Z not too long ago, and I was like, oh my God, we've been saying Saiyan incorrectly almost my entire life. It's Saiyan. It's Saiyan. It's Saiyajin in Japanese. But my God, it's just wrong. I can't go back at this point, and I always watch the dub of it, but my God. So
mine was My Hime. I genuinely did try to watch the dub of that. It was just
to be fair. To be fair, nobody knows why we're doing that. I think you're giving us the look of like, why are you guys doing that? Some people will know, others won't. But to be fair, there have been some really good dubs, and I will say Princess Mononoke was one of them.
True.
And this is where they hired people who are professional actors who know their talent and their skills, and they were able to translate that into the English dubs for Princess Mononoke. Some other animes, it almost doesn't make sense for it to be in Japanese. So I'm thinking of Bakano, for example, which occurs in, I think it was 1930s America, right?
Yeah.
There's not a single Japanese person in the show. It doesn't make sense that it's in Japanese. It should be in English. But again,
the
it does.
Alchemist one was passable on dubs.
I think it has to do with the quality of the voice actors, and I'm going to think again of a recent series that I'm almost finished with actually on HBO Max called Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn has a powerhouse of actors in it. It's got Kaylee Cuoco, it's got Jason Alexander, it's got Alan Tudyk, the guy that played K2SO. I never know how to say his name.
And Wash.
And yeah, but
and in Knight's Tale.
Yeah, there.
Yeah.
So these are high quality actors, and it makes a huge difference in their dubs. But that's just me.
I would agree. And also my hot take is the Full Metal dub was really good, but Vic Mignola as Edward is not good if you listen to the sub first.
Oh, and he's so popular too. He's so popular too.
And a douche.
Doesn't he think he's a singer or something? Anyway, never mind.
Okay, you're giving me a face. Explain. Explain.
Was that to me or to Keith?
Yeah, that's to you.
So I'm making a face of all things, actually, because So you know the song, what is it? That like really heart-wrenching brother love song from Fullmetal Alchemist. I'm terrible. It's the end of the day on a Friday. I'm forgetting the name of it.
He ain't heavy. He's my brother.
Nah, it's
Well played.
so
In which show?
in Fullmetal Alchemist.
Well, there's two shows.
Like that, not Brotherhood.
Okay, good. I don't know. Okay, this one's going to be a show note.
Either way, you know what?
Yeah.
This can just be dropped. Yeah.
But my hot take, Vic Mignola, worst part of the English dub.
Worst person ever. Just kidding.
Keith, looking at the time, I think we're at your new favorite part of the show.
The lightning round. All right, yeah. So this is just going to be our segment every week. We're going to ask pretty much the same questions of every single guest, unless we decide to add or subtract questions. And we might do that because this is an ever-evolving show. Let's start the lightning round. All right. How do you think your hobbies have contributed to your success in your full-time work?
Because I'm able to deal with Google and Facebook and Bing/Microsoft's ever-changing rules of engagement. I play lots of board games. I play lots of video games. I have to learn lots of rules of engagement constantly. Therefore, my brain is adept at handling every curveball they feel like throwing at me or my clients. It's great.
If you could be one fictional character, who would it be?
It's a toss-up between Mara Jade and Rurouni Kenshin, because I feel like they both exemplify who I am. There's both a darkness and a light irreverence, and I like to think of that I channel my darker impulses for good.
Oro.
What other interests would you like to pursue if time wasn't a constraint?
I would actually overcome my Achilles heel of languages. I'm so bad at languages. I only have English under my belt. And every time I try, I always fail. And so I feel like if I had infinite time and I didn't have to worry about money, I would be able to communicate effectively with everyone, not just those that are English speaking.
So desu ne. And that is our lightning round.
So with the lightning round done, that about wraps up another episode of the Austin Otaku podcast. Thank you very much for being on, Navah. This was an absolute pleasure to talk to you.
Indeed.
Thank you so much for having me and hanging out. I love you guys. And if we can just geek out about life as opposed to stressing the little stuff, it's a good day.
Absolutely. That's what I'm going to miss this year most, is seeing everyone and just chatting at conferences. So it was great talking to you.
Virtual conferences we can still chat at virtual conferences.
True that. So hopefully we'll have a couple in the near future that we can all three hang out in. But with that, thank you all for joining, and we'll see you next time.
This has been the Austin Otaku Podcast. To learn more about us and our show, to be a guest, or to subscribe to our show, go to www.austinotaku.com and follow us on Facebook and Twitter.